Now that scores and popularity have settled in for the autumn season, I can skip the seasonal overview and jump immediately to the Anime Awards of 2025. Why am I not waiting for December before doing that? Because the results are obvious and this season sucks, that's why. Let's start with how I choose the candidates from each season. Objectively, they need to have a score of above 8 on MAL and more than 200,000 followers. Subjectively, it will be any title I like that doesn't check the aforementioned criteria, but I like it anyways. Don't worry, this won't matter in the awards, the year was shit. So, during winter, these 5 titles had above 8, and these 4 titles had above 200,000. Only 3 titles check both criteria: Apothecary Diaries, Solo Leveling, and Dr. Stone. There is no title I personally want to include since I didn't like any of them. Before I move to the next season, this is what I have to say about the Dropouts, which is titles that checked 1 criteria, not both, so they partially succeeded in their season, but not enough to be candidates for annual awards. Sakamoto Days was heavily promoted as the John Wick of anime. It got a lot of hype, and because it had action, it attracted a lot of people. It ended up being nothing special, not even the action was that well animated, so past the hype, it had nothing going for it. Yet another example for why hype means absolutely nothing. By the way, this minion of mine uploaded my recent reviews on his MAL account, and look at that! My Sakamoto review is the most upvoted. Once again, you see how no matter how much they nag about my criticism, they all agree with it at the end of the day. As for the other 2 titles, I have nothing to say, they're just cute girls doing cute things. Nothing else matters for the modern audiences. Summary. Next up is spring, where nothing checked both criteria and thus nothing can be a candidate. These here are the ones with over an 8, and as you can clearly see, they are just forgettable fluff for a very niche audience, and that's the only reason they have such high averages. The one that stands out among them is to be Hero X, and even that one was more artistic with how it changed animation styles than anything important in terms of plot or characters. In terms of popularity, only these 2 titles got above 200,000, and it's just a generic action show everybody was watching just for the girl that keeps losing her clothes. And Lazarus that a lot of people were tricked to check out because it was made by the director of Cowboy Bebop. Popular name aside, it was not good at all, and most people stopped watching it very fast. I have no titles I want to include in these candidates, but I wanna say a few things about the titles that failed in both criteria. Unsurely is a fine period drama. It was kinda rushed compared to the previous version, but other than that, it deserves a watch for a few episodes. Windbreaker got a lot of hype because it had the usual power fantasy of delinquents beating up each other, and adults do not exist. That aside, it was nothing worth remembering. Vigilantes was the spin-off of My Gay Food Academia and had absolutely none of the charm of the early seasons. Not even the expanded themes had consistency with the core series. Not many cared about it. Hey, look at my review on MAL, it's the most voted. Yaiba is basically a rehash of the original Dragon Ball with very good animation and action. The plot is very basic, but the charm is there. Anyone who says Daima is a return to how the original Dragon Ball was like is a complete moron. Yaiba is the real deal. Gundam Jikax, is that how you read this shit? Continues the destruction of a once great franchise. What used to be a war drama in space is now slice of life with lesbians at a high school. And the beginning after the end was hyped up to be as good as Mushoku Tensei, because it was copying the exact same plot. But the animation was very bad and the MC was not a pedophile, thus nobody cared to follow it. This alone proves why animation and pedophiles are the only 2 things that made Mushoku Tensei so popular. Summary. Next up is summer, and boy did it have a lot of high-scored titles. More than the other 3 seasons combined, actually. Popularity-wise, not that many of those have above 200,000, thus a lot less became candidates. Comments about the Dropouts. Most of them are gooning bullshit and wholesome nonsense nobody will remember once they are over. Out of them all, Kaiju number 8 stands out by being promoted as the new Attack on Titan. although theme-wise it was nowhere near as close and absolutely nothing interesting happens in it. It was just a generic action show with very shallow characters. Hey, look at my review on Mal, it's the most voted! And then there is the Lord of Mysteries, which everyone was hyping as the best mystery story ever written, when it's just dull characters info-dumping video game mechanics. How is this shit supposed to be the best mystery of all times? Hey, look at my review on Mal, it's the most voted! Special mention to Pantheon Stalking, that was pure artistic chaos with horny cartoons that I didn't find sex in the list. They were very super deformed. The plot is almost entirely episodic and undoes all negative consequences, which is why it becomes passable in the long run. But if you're into satire of famous movies and series, this won't disappoint. Oh, and let's not forget to mention the Shield Hero, which everyone was hyping as the best isekai during the first season, although it was just revenge porn with a slave harem, and then stopped caring about it once the main appeal was gone. Yes, it was never the world building or fending off monster attacks. It was a guy hating women and making a slave harem. Summary. And finally now we have the autumn season, where 7 titles have above 8 and out of them 2 have above 200,000. You know what? I'm gonna include My Hero Academia in it too, since there is no way it will stay this low by the time it finishes. It doesn't matter in the awards anyways. As a whole, only this one and Spy X Family deserve to be candidates. Comments about the Dropouts. Kingdom will forever be the manga that everybody loves and the anime nobody watches. To Your Eternity is living off the momentum of the first episode. Nothing afterwards was as good as it. Nobody cares about the Gintama spin-off. It's an obvious cash grab of an IP that overstayed its welcome. Horse Girls is there because a lot of gooners have paid thousands of dollars on the gacha is based on and are now enslaved to the IP. One Punch Man was never a subversion and never had a super deep plot that deconstructs superheroes. It was always pretty colors and without them it's a generic action show. Why is it so hard to understand that? And finally, Ranma is here because of the transgender representation. It's a good comedy even without it, but not many would care without the constant gender-bender jokes. Yes, we have that sort of community. No special mentions for any other show this season, I didn't like any of them. Summary. Comments about the candidates that didn't win. Dr. Stone is now a more wholesome show than the survival adventure it began as. There used to be stakes in the first season and things took time to be made. Now it's just Gilligan's Island, a smartass and his harem creating shit in a few minutes. It has betrayed its premise and just runs on the momentum of the first season. Dan Da Dan is just pretty colors about the most popular girl having the hots for a dork. The plot is bullshit, the action has no gravity to it, and people are watching it for the shipping. My dress-up darling is degenerate crap about a cosplay whore seducing a cross-dresser. There is no substance to it. Gachakuta is just edgy bullshit, the plot is nonsensical and every degenerate is watching it to goon over children getting groomed and raped. Also, my review of it on Mal is the most voted. First I disagree out of fanboyism, then they all agree with me. And finally there is my Gay Foot Academia, which is basically a case of Stockholm Syndrome. Everybody knows it became shit after season 3, but doesn't let go of it because they love shipping minors. Especially Bakugo, who is a sadistic bully, having gay foot massages with a boy he torments. You know which boy I'm talking about. The one who was telling you he's gonna be the greatest hero at the end, and only ended up getting forgotten and selling burgers. Plus ultra! And now for the actual winners based on the candidates. The best period drama is clearly Apothecary Diaries, a title that was already out since winter. It didn't have much competition, the closest runner-up was Anne Shirley, which wasn't even an official candidate, since not that many watched it. Hell, not even I watched it. But from the things I remember from the older version, that one is pure coming of age. There's nothing creepy about it compared to Apothecary Diaries, which, let's be honest, it's about a girl getting kidnapped and groomed and having romantic mishaps with the people who kidnapped her. It has sick romantic elements for sick people. Beyond that, it seems a lot more interesting in terms of setting and character dynamics. Take that as you will. Next up, the best action-adventure winner, which is clearly solo leveling, again from Winter. It sucks at everything else, but in terms of spectacle alone, it easily wins over every other action-oriented title. Best romance, The Fragrant Flower Blooms with Dignity from Summer. I didn't watch it because I'm not into that bullshit, but from what I hear, it's not degenerate like the runner-ups, which are mostly Gunner bait. Best occult mystery, The Summer Hikaru Died from Summer. I found it to be very one-note. It doesn't have that many things going on to excuse the duration, but it's not like it had much competition from anything else. The runner-up is not even an official candidate, and even if it were, it didn't have characters. It had video game infodumps. Best misery porn, Takopi's original scene from Summer. What else could it be? The runner-ups are not even half as messed up. And my review of it on Mal is the highest voted! Anyways, Takopi's bullshit as a whole, but when it comes to worsening people with mental traumas, it does a good job. And finally, the best wholesome anime is Spy X Family from Autumn. It's mostly the lol memes than anything else, because that's the community we have. But compared to the runner-ups, it's simply far more memorable. Who's going to remember the rest of them? And that's it with the winners. If you do a breakdown, the best season was a summer since it had 3 awards, winter comes second with 2, autumn is third with 1, and last comes spring with absolutely 0. Summary: 2025 sucked, as all modern things do. It was a below-average year with nothing really impressive in it. The winning titles are good at one thing and nothing beyond that, which means they are not that good as a whole. So once again, Retro always wins!